The temple district of Kelvorax Prime smelled of incense and ozone. Father Tillman adjusted his ceremonial robes as he walked through the marble corridors, his forearms clasped in traditional prayer formation. He had served the Grand Cathedral for 3 centuries, tending to the relics and teaching young acolytes about the sacred artifacts left behind by the precursors. Today was different. Today, the humans had arrived. The delegation waited in the Hall of Ancient Wonders, their strange 2-armed forms looking oddly incomplete among the gathered priests and scholars. Tillman studied them with interest. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council only 5 solar cycles ago, and their reputation preceded them. They were odd creatures, capable of eating poison for pleasure and surviving injuries that would kill most species. But they were also ignorant of proper protocols and reverence. The leader of the human group was a man named Jack Torres. He wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's Archaeological Survey, and his face bore the relaxed expression of someone completely unaware of this sacred ground he stood upon. Beside him stood Maria Kowalski, a xenoarchaeologist with kind eyes, and Peter Kim, a linguistics specialist who kept scanning everything with his handheld device. "Welcome to the Cathedral of Eternal Memory," Tillman said, his translator box rendering his words in flat human English. "I am Father Tillman, keeper of the relics. You wish to study our collection." Jack extended his hand in that peculiar human greeting. Tillman touched it briefly with one of his lower hands, finding the gesture awkward but not unpleasant. "We're honored to be here, Father," Jack said. "Earth Central has authorized us to document precursor artifacts across Council space. We've heard your collection is the finest in 3 sectors. Tillman felt a flutter of pride. "Indeed. We have preserved 17 major pieces, each one a testament to the power and glory of those who came before. Follow me." He led them deeper into the cathedral, past displays of crystalline tools and incomprehensible machinery. The humans made appropriate sounds of appreciation, though Tillman suspected they did not truly understand what they were seeing. How could they? Their species had barely left their home system when the Council found them. They entered the Chamber of Weapons, a circular room with a domed ceiling painted to show the constellation of the precursor home system. Around the walls, mounted on pedestals of pure stone, rested the instruments of war used by the Ancient Ones. "These blades could cut through starship hulls," Tillman explained, gesturing to a curved sword that glowed with inner light. "These spears could pierce dimensional barriers. And there, in the center, rests the holiest of all." The weapon lay on an altar of black stone, spotlit from above. It resembled a rifle, but larger than any gun Tillman had ever seen. Its barrel was thick and inscribed with symbols that predated galactic standard writing. The stock was made of a golden metal that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. Power cells ran along its length, dead now but still radiating an aura of dormant might. "The thunder of the ancients," Tillman said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "It is said that only the gods themselves could lift this weapon. We estimate it weighs 600 kilograms, perhaps more. The alloys are denser than any known material. In 3,000 years, no one has moved it from that altar." Peter was scanning it frantically, his eyes wide. "The energy signature is incredible. Whatever power source this used, it makes our fusion reactors look like campfires. Many have tried to lift it," Tillman continued. "Warriors, champions, the strongest of every species. All have failed. It is proof that the precursors were divine, that they transcended the physical laws that bind the rest of us." Maria was taking notes on her tablet. "Have you tried mechanical assistance? Antigrav lifts?" Tillman's facial tendrils stiffened in disapproval. To use such devices on a holy relic would be blasphemy. The thunder must be lifted by living hands, or not at all. That is the teaching. Jack had been walking around the altar, studying the weapon from different angles. He tilted his head in that curious human way. "Can I try?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Tillman's assistant, a young priest named Velex, made a chirping sound of alarm. "You?" Tillman tried to keep the condescension from his voice. "Human, I mean no offense, but your species is not known for great strength. The Kravafi, who can bend steel bars, could not budge it. The Thorians, who mine asteroids with their bare hands, failed utterly. What makes you think?" "I'd just like to try," Jack said simply. "If that's allowed." Tillman considered. There was no rule against it. Hundreds had attempted the feat over the centuries. One more failure would only reinforce the lesson. Perhaps it would teach the humans proper humility. "Very well," he said, "but you must approach with respect. This is a sacred space." Jack nodded and removed his boots, as was customary. He walked barefoot to the altar, his movements casual in a way that made Tillman's spine ridges itch. Where was the reverence? Where was the sense of approaching the divine? The human placed his hands on the weapon, gripping the stock and the barrel. He tested the weight slightly, shifting his stance. Tillman prepared himself to see the human strain and fail, as all the others had. Jack lifted the thunder of the ancients off the altar. He hefted it up to shoulder height, then brought it down to waist level, examining it with the casual interest of someone inspecting a purchase. The weapon that no living being had moved in 3 millennia rested in his arms like it weighed nothing more than a child's toy. The chamber fell into absolute silence. "Huh," Jack said, turning the weapon over. "The balance is all wrong. Weight distribution is way off center. Who designed this thing?" Velex made a strangled sound. 2 other priests who had been standing guard fell to their knees. Tillman felt his heart's hammering in his chest, all 3 of them beating in a regular rhythm of shock and disbelief. "That is impossible," Tillman whispered. Jack looked up, seeming genuinely confused by the reaction. "What is? This? I mean, it's heavy, sure. Maybe 900 kilos? But the grip is actually pretty good once you get your hands positioned right." "100," Tillman repeated. His translator must be malfunctioning. "You said 100. "Yeah, about that. Maybe a bit more." Jack set the weapon back on the altar with care. "Look, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but where I'm from, this wouldn't even be the heaviest thing at a garage sale. My neighbor sold an engine block last month that weighed twice this." Maria had gone pale. She understood, even if Jack did not, the significance of what had just happened. "Jack, I think we need to— Are you a god?" Tillman interrupted, his voice shaking. "Have you been blessed by the precursors themselves?" Jack laughed, a short bark of genuine amusement. "Father, I'm nobody special. I played football in high school. I do some weightlifting at the gym, but I'm just a regular guy. Humans aren't that strong compared to a lot of species we've met." "But the weapon," Velex said, finding his voice. "The divine weight. The test of worthiness." Peter had been running calculations on his device. He looked up with an expression of dawning realization. "I think I understand. Father Tillman, what is the average gravity on your homeworld?" "Standard, of course. 9.7 meters per second squared." "Right, and Earth's gravity is 9.8. Almost identical." Peter showed his screen to the others. "But human bone density is significantly higher than most council species. Our muscle attachment points are structured differently. We evolved on a planet with large predators and no natural weapons. We had to be strong enough to throw spears, climb trees, carry injured tribe members. The human body is built for load bearing in a way that most species aren't." Tillman shook his head. "But the legends, the prophecies, only the divine could lift the thunder." "Or," Maria said gently, "maybe the precursors were just built like us. Maybe they weren't gods at all, just people who happened to be strong enough to use their own equipment. The implications crashed through Tillman's mind like falling stars. 3,000 years of religious teaching, centuries of worship and reverence, all based on the assumption that the precursors were divine because no one could lift their weapons. Jack, oblivious to the theological crisis he had triggered, was examining the weapon again. You know what this reminds me of? There was this antique rifle at a yard sale back in Austin. Guy wanted $50 for it. Thing was built for soldiers in the 1940s. Heavy as hell, but they carried them into battle. This has the same vibe. Overbuilt, meant to last, designed for someone who had to lug it around all day. A yard sale? Tillman said faintly. Yeah. You know, where people sell their old stuff they don't want anymore. Jack finally seemed to notice the atmosphere in the room. Did I do something wrong? I put it back. Velix had prostrated himself fully on the floor. 2 more priests were praying frantically. Another was updating his theological database with shaking hands. Maria stepped forward, her voice diplomatic. Father Tillman, I think we need to have a longer conversation about the precursors. About their nature, their technology, their biology. Tillman sank into a meditation pose, all 4 arms spread in a gesture of contemplation. His worldview was shattering, reforming, crystallizing into new patterns. If the humans could lift the thunder, if the divine test was simply a matter of muscle density and bone structure, if the precursors were not,